And deck number 2 is Lightsworn. And there was much rejoicing. Yay! I would do that with a little bit more feeling if not for the fact that this is actually my second attempt at doing this deck list video, because my camera could not have timed its fargoing even... It could not have timed it worse. Because it turns out I got right to the end of my first attempt and then the freaking SD card was full. And so it just fucking conked out at me when I was explaining the bloody last card in the side deck. So that really pissed me off. It was a waste of nearly 15 minutes of my freaking time. Which is really, really dumb, because I have this, I have another bloody video, and then I have a week's worth of Mario Star Road to freaking do. So, yeah, I kind of want to get this over and done with while I have the house to myself. Because if I have to fucking close the door to record my shit, I'm going to fucking burn to death. It's that bloody hot out there. Okay, anyways, just focus a bit more on the deck list. This is not actually Lightsworn, this is actually Twilight. I decided to opt for the more classic sort of helmet as opposed to the more modern helmet that people were hyped up about over the mid-period of last year. I actually like the Twilight build a lot better, because I just like the Chaos decks in general. That's what sort of kind of piqued my interest in Shadows, although it took a while for me to actually take an interest in Shadows. Because if I did when the set came out, I would actually be a lot closer to freaking putting the deck together. All I would really need is the fusion monsters, and then that would be it. But it's a shame that I actually offloaded my shit, but whatever. Let's just move on to the deck list. So, Lightsworn setup is about as standard as it gets. The interesting part will come into the darks. So, triple JD to start off with. I mean, you win your games with this thing. It's pretty damn obvious. We then have triple Raiden. I like to see Raiden in my opening hand if I don't have recharge. If I have the both of them, then I will obviously just recharge. But I like to have, if I don't have the recharge, I'd like to open at least the Raiden, so that way I can get 4 cards into the grave quickly and just get things started. Hopefully one of those, hopefully I get a couple of Lightsworns off of that, so that way I've got a 19 beat stick that the opponent would more than likely have to go for one of their big creatures in order to get over, which is nice. And if I have the Honest in their hand, then that makes it harder on the opponent, save for the fact that they've got like a Raigeki or something. Then have Luminar, triple Luminar. This one's a pretty much standard staple. She gets just about everything going and contributes to a considerable amount of speed that this deck has. So that's always nice to have. Double Lila. 3 is not at all necessary. I actually considered cutting this down to 1 because you don't really need too many copies of Lila. I think at this stage, 2 is just a pretty decent balance. It's just nice so that I can get it, and if I lose it, then I've got another one that I can put into the grave, just to provide its name to the JD. So that's pretty much the reason why I'm going for the 2 of that. Everything else I'm going 1 copy of. So I've got the Felice for popping, Gareth for draw power, Jane for bead stick, Aaron to say screw you to big walls, and Minerva. I was considering running 2. Like, I initially had 2, and then I'm sort of wanted to focus a bit, put some more darks in the deck, because there was fuck all darks in my initial sort of concept for this. And so I decided to cut down Minerva to 1, because I only really need her in case, not just as an additional Lightsworn name, but just in case I want to make Goyo, or just another level 6 Synchro. I've only got Goyo in here, but basically she's literally just there just so that I can go into that, so that I've got that option. And so that's all the Lightsworns. Other light stuff, Eclipse Wyvern, only really need the 1, because just as long as I get this and have at least 1 JD that I know I'm going to get to hand, and then utilize, because the likelihood is that I'm going to get it out using something like a Chaos Sorcerer or BLS. So if I'm able to have it established, if I'm able to keep my opponent to a relatively empty board, then I can just go JD, BLS, shred shit. And so then double Denko. I considered siding this and maining Career Bandit just to increase the number of darks. I decided that I only really want the Career Bandits just so I have, just to increase the speed of the deck going game 2 and 3. I decided to go for the Denko because it is Royal Decree on legs here, so I'm just able to summon this, get a JD out, and not have to worry about it short of Engrave Breakthrough or even more obscurely friggin' Veiler. So aside from those, Denko on the board with the JD means your opponent, the opponent is going to lose their board. Then have Double Honest. If I do decide to run this at the local that's coming up, I would like to at least try to win a game by going Honest attack, drop Honest for game. So that's always a nice thing to have. Plus, as well, now you can actually mill an Honest and be only mildly disappointed because you know that there's another one in there that hopefully you'll be able to get into your hand. So that's all for the lights of the deck, save for BLS. Onward to the darks. I think I said lights. I'm turned around, whatever. Darks, triple Necro Gardener, pretty obvious. You'd run it even in pure Lightsworns, unless you want to be like pure. Then have 2 Shadow Dragon for popping back row, getting around stuff, and 2 Shadow Beast. Shadow Beast is literally only there to serve either as discard fodder if it's in my hand, or to hopefully mill and get the draw off it. That's literally all it's there for. I will almost never ever summon this. I may like summon it in case, like if I had a pretty piss weak monster, I could trib it to get this speed stick on the board and maybe attack for game, but that is a very, very rare occurrence. It's literally there for the sole purpose of milling it, draw power, good times. Then have 2 Gores because screw OTKs, seriously. 2 Chaos Sorcerer, just because it wouldn't be a Chaos without them. And same thing with BLS. Would not be a Chaos deck without him. Next we have the spells. I think that's like 30 odd monsters or something like that. I think this is like a 43 card build, because I've always been sort of pro like have more than 40 in Lightsworn sort of thing. So for draw power, 3 recharge, and the 1 allure. Allure is a good thing to have, especially if you've got a dead beast in hand. You can just get rid of it with this, and you're not really going to be losing too much. Same thing with like if you have to get rid of something like Chaos Sorcerer or something like that, then you can do that as well. 1 charge, because obviously the rare occurrence will be that you'll be able to search it with it. 2 Monster Incarnation, no Soul Charge, because I'm more likely to mill off Soul Charge than I am at drawing it. Same thing can be said about Charge, but Charge is actually relevant to the deck's interest, whereas Soul Charge is really not. Soul Charge will get you a big amount of creatures on the board, but you can't attack with them, and that's the whole point of having the big creatures on the board, is you want to clear the board, have big creatures, and then just swing for mass amounts of damage, and Soul Charge does not let you do that. So that's why I'm not running Soul Charge. My last 2 cards, however, are double Breakthrough Skill, just so I can get around nuisance sort of effects. Next, once I've taken a drink, and wet my throat, move on to the extra deck. We then so we have Felgrand. The reason for this is because, just in case I do fail to win a game using triple JD, it's a very rare occurrence because triple JD is usually enough to OTK, but if that ends up failing for whatever reason, Swift Scarecrow, Battle Fate or something, then I need to use this, then I'll need to stack 2 of my JDs into this, because as much as milling is good for the deck as it is possible to have too much of a good thing, and milling 12 is not exactly an ideal sort of thing to have, especially when in mid to late game where you've probably got fuck all cards and probably don't even have 12 to mill, so then you just end up auto losing next turn. Lavalval Chain just really complements the deck nicely. You can get stuff like Felice in the graveyard, and so you can get a free pop. You can stack your big boss monsters on top, so that way you know you can top deck them, assuming you're not going to be milling shit during the end phase. Exciton, I actually found that this is a very convenient thing to have, even though you've got triple JD and Black Rose potential. The reason for this is because my friend, I watched him play using Lightsworns, and he ended up losing because he didn't have Excite on, because he did not have enough names for JD, he did not have any tuners, and so he couldn't go into Black Rose. His only option was to clear his opponent's board, and he did not have Excite on, and it ended up costing him the game. So I find Excite on to be very, very useful, because the idea for Lightsworns is basically swing on empty fields with big sticks. Excite on kind of hinders the whole damage inflicting sort of thing, but the fact that you're able to wipe the opponent's board, and if they've committed the majority of their hand, then the next turn is probably likely to be the one where you just open shit up, go crazy, and win. So it's basically just the timing sort of thing. It was a pretty good timing for using Excite on in that situation, but he just didn't have it. So it definitely can win you games, definitely. We then have 101 to get rid of nuisance stuff. Same thing with Panel Dynamo. Though Panel Dynamo can actually help you do damage. Well, technically 101 does the same thing, but the point still remains. One other card, this is nice to have, because you can pop back row, and if you go into it with 2 Luminas, once he dies, you've got at least 1 light and 1 dark in graveyard, so your Chaos plays are set up right from the word go. Then have the Leviathan. Not too many rank 3s, that's pretty much all I'm running, because I would run more if I had the Tour Guides, but the fact that I'm milling so much kind of just puts me off using Tour Guides. So, onwards to the Synchros. Have the 1 Star Reader, because he is Star Reader and he does what he does best. Then we have the Leo. I kind of just put the Star Reader right there, and for no real reason. So yeah, there's a better shot at the Star Reader. There's a better shot at Leo, and there's a better shot at my Stardust, and Scrap Dragon, and Colossal Fighter for my level 8s. I'm probably thinking of cutting Scrap Dragon though, because I like to use Scrap Dragon to pop useless back row on my board. Because my idea is like get rid of something on the opponent's board and then open them up a little bit further and then just swing for massive damage. Of course, that massive damage thing is kind of hurt by the fact that most of the time I find myself having to pop a monster in order to use Scrap Dragon. So I might cut that for a Crimson Blader, just get rid of Cliffort matchup or something like that. Can also help against shitholes. So still debating on that one, but it's probably gonna happen. Don't know where I'd put me Scrap Dragon though, so we'll have to think about that one. 1 Michael. I'd like to give 2 a bit of a test, and I might see about it, see what I could, if there is something that I could cut to put a 2nd Michael in just for testing. But for now, I'm kind of content with the 1. Then we have the 1 Black Rose. These are the only 2 7s I play, and then the Goyo Guardian, as stated earlier, with Minerva. Since I'm able to go into this thing with that Minerva, it's worth running. It's probably not going to be in. I think its future in the deck is only going to be dependent on whether or not I use it in the upcoming local. Because if I do use the next deck that I'm going to show off, which is the most likely result, I'm going to end up putting it in that deck and cutting something out of the extra deck of that for it. So, have to see what the future has in store for us. Onwards to the side deck. Playing double Metion, because this gets rid of really annoying shit like Shadows, Dante, Virgil. It just provides a really nice, just sort of, screw you, you can't do shit. So this is basically just, it prevents them from getting their good effects because it just sends them back to the extra deck. So they're not going to get recycled Shadow Fusions. They're not going to get all bloody recycled BAs and stuff like that. So this thing is really nice to have. My only issue is the fact that it does require your normal summon. You can't have anything else on any other monsters on the board in order to use it. So that is kind of what puts me off. But it is still a pretty damn good card to have if your opponent's sort of like scrapping together bits and pieces. If you can get that on the board and say screw you, your last play is screwed. Then it'll go a pretty long way to getting you to win that game. Then double Curry Bandit. I put this in the side deck just because I just in case I wanted extra speed going into game 2 and 3. It would be nice to have full speed going into game 1, but I opted for the Denko instead, just so that I have the safety blanket whenever I drop JD. So yeah, it's also nice because it gets Chaos plays off immediately. Well, the likelihood is that it will do that. Because hitting that and then getting a whole bunch of Lightsworns in the grave, that gets you set up really, really nicely. Then we have 2 Raikou for spot removal, 1 Orcus for the mirror match. Basically, if I have sort of like a combo, I can go for a Lumina, and then just drop this Orcus just sort of sitting in the defense mode against the mirror match. It shuts them out of their own Luminas, because then that way their Luminas can't target anything. They then can't target any of my ship with any of their sort of stuff, so they can't break through me, they can't do any of that sort of stuff, just because I've got this sort of thing sitting here. And if I've got like a play where I can sort of go for a Lumina and overlay with this, so that I can get my access to my Lightsworns back, I can easily do that. So it's always nice to have that, or if I have like a Raiden I can Synchro it, and so he's pretty nice to have in the mirror match. At least in theory he is. Then have the 1 Raigeki, off-button to Vanities. Forbidden Chalice, it was the 15th card in the in this side deck. I'm just like, screw it, I might as well put something in there. It's not completely useless, I mean it gets around Shadow Flip effects. 3 MST, just to get rid of really annoying shit, like Skill Drain does pretty much kill this deck. It still pretty much does. I mean, yeah, you've got Shadow Dragon, but if you have less chances of milling it, you have more chances of drawing it, and that's not what you want. Then we have Triple Roll Decree to finish us off. I was in the middle of explaining this before my bloody camera was being dipstick, but it doesn't really need too much explaining. I mean, it's just there to basically back up Denko. This is really nice to have as well if I'm siding the Nenkos out for the Kree Bandits, because then that way I've still got a safety blanket of sorts for the JD play. So that is it for the Lightsworn deck, and thankfully this time it's actually going to frickin' work, and I don't have to worry about frickin' cutting the bloody video short in regards to space, because I've got all the space in the world since I completely emptied the damn thing. So, with that out of the way, I will see you for the 3rd and final deck list of this trio.